Hi, my name is Robin O'Leary and welcome to ROAP Coaching's YouTube channel. Today we're going to be looking at the techniques behind campusing, specifically on the campus board, but we're also going to see how these techniques translate to preset climbs and campusing on normal problems. So a lot of people don't think there's any kind of technique to campusing, it's just raw power. That's far from the truth. We get so many videos from climbers all around the world getting stuck and frustrated with this plateau, not being able to pull through, and it's all to do with technique. Today we're going to explore those techniques, look at the common faults, how to correct them, and look at these nuances, the minutiae of detail of how to improve your campusing. You're going to experience the revelation it can give you and how much more power you have to give. So stay tuned. I've got to warm up because campusing is quite powerful. There's a lot of contact strength involved. So I'm going to warm up, you're going to follow me, and then we're going to talk you through those techniques. So I'm about to do a move that kind of just shows a bit of power. Massive holds, jogs involved and my feet involved. And then we're going to talk about how the technique changes when feet are removed from the contact. So essentially here and here, I've got huge feet, I can smear, and I can do that move. Now, if I were to remove the feet, then that power is very much focused and reliant on my upper body. And we see videos all the time, whether it's on a campus board or on climbs, potentially it is a campus move of a climb, where people don't understand how to use their power properly, the technique involved. So this is a very familiar scene for many people. It may be true for yourself. And it could be, if I want to go to that big jug, then I can only go a tiny amount above that higher leading hand. And it's really important to actually focus in climbing in general, whether your feet are on or off the wall, to press down as long as possible. It's an explosive pull-up and an offset pull-up, which we'll talk about later on in this video. But if I do that same move and I press down, then I can go the whole way without using my feet. It's a big move. Obviously that's really easy with my feet, but sometimes a campus move or an outright power move is important. Plus, if we train power without our feet, and then we have feet as well, it's just going to be exaggerated how far we can go and how explosive we can be. So we're going to look at this concept now on the campus board, and we're going to talk through common errors, what we see all the time, and how to correct them. So on the campus board, there are milestones when each rung is an even split apart. So for example, 1, 3, 5, 1, 4, 7, or the Holy Grail, 1, 5, 9. They're kind of like these goals that we all set ourselves. And one of the first ones for an alternate is 1, 3, 5. So you're missing a rung each time. Now, even on this exercise, we see a lot of people failing to get 1, 3, 5 and doing 1, 3, 4. It's all because of technique. And I'm going to show you an example of what happens when people do a 1, 3, 4 and they can't do 5. And that same concept is exaggerated the further those rungs are apart. So I'm going to start on 2, so 2, 4, 5. Ideally I'd be doing 2, 4, 6, missing out 3, missing out 5, but typically what people do is they'll go up 1, 3, they'll lock off, and then their body's failing and they hit 5, for example. So what that shows is they're not exploring their power, they're locking off, they're making it more of a strength exercise, they're throwing away their energy. It's really important, like multiple concepts, but the first one is that you're catching the initial rung on a straight arm. We're using what I would refer to as appropriate power. And that is, if I'm throwing from 1 to 3, I'm not going to use the energy of going 1 to 5. But we still see it in a lot of climbers. They'll go 1 to 3 and catch it on a lock off, hold that position, which is so tiring, and also they're throwing away all of that energy, a half a lock, sometimes even a 3/4 lock. Or they'll catch it on a 1/4 lock and they'll pull and lock into a 3/4 lock, and then they've run out of power. I'll show you again what that looks like. So matching this rung, and they'll go up 2, and they'll catch it in this locked off position, lock off, and then their body sags as they reach up. It's a really familiar scene, so many things wrong with that. And we're going to take it apart piece by piece. Again, the initial bar being appropriate power. So what does that look like? If I'm going to 1 to 3, I want to catch 3 on a pretty much straight arm, shoulder engaged. So I'll show you. There it is. I'm not using any more power than necessary. And from there, whether that's 1-4 or 1-5, I want to catch on a straight arm, because then I've got all of this power, a full length of arm to explore. One of the downsides of using a campus board is it's brutal on your pinky fingers, or it should be, the skin specifically. So I'm going to pre-tape my pinky fingers, the A4 joint, so this middle one, to protect it. If you do a lot of campusing, you'll experience like a flapper, where you rip off all that skin, but I'm going to preempt that. So that's what I'm going to do now. So appropriate power is the first aspect of campusing. You're aiming to catch that hold with the shoulder engaged, so you have control over your shoulder. If you don't have control over your shoulder, it will collapse. Like you may see people hangboarding in this position and they have no power. You really need that scapula, your shoulder blade down and backwards, so engaged. You're catching in an engaged position. That's your shoulders kind of as a T. And then from there, there's so many things that can go wrong, and we're going to talk about those now. So provided I catch that on a straight arm, the next rung, again, is all about appropriate power. But so many people, whether they're climbing with their feet on or they're campusing, are so focused on this leading arm, of pulling and locking off and reaching. And the reach happens far too soon. So that's the next concept we're going to look at. And I'll show you again what that looks like when it goes wrong, and then how to correct it. So I'm going to chalk up, and then this time we're going to do a 1-4 something. Again, the ideal of a 1-4, if you're looking for those kind of milestones, is a 1-4-7, equal distance between, so missing out 2 rungs either side. Now, what we'll see a lot is a 1-4-5 because of these concepts. I'm going to miss out the initial one of catching on a bent arm or locking off, but I'm going to show you what goes wrong for the next aspect, which is releasing your lower arm far too soon. So here we go. So for me, I'm going to do a 2-5, and then it'll probably just be a 2-5-6 to show you kind of what goes wrong. So, throwing up the first one, I'll catch 5 straight arm, and then they'll do this. And if you notice in that video, and we'll play it back and we'll show you another footage in a second, I'm not using my lower arm. And in climbing, it's so important to help your leading arm, to help explosive power of pressing down as long as possible. The offset pull-up, which we'll explore later on, is so important. It's crucial in climbing, it's crucial in campusing, but being able to press down to assist that leading arm, because ultimately, most of us aren't strong enough to campus to a rung, take the other one off, and do a one-armer and reach the next one. Some people are, but most of us aren't. So it's really important to be able to press down to assist the leading arm. I'll show you what that looks like properly, and then we'll kind of compare the two together. This is the bad version, and we'll freeze the frame just as I'm kind of lowering my body on the rungs, because one point that I don't really talk about during this video that's really important is that we obviously want those full arms, the straight arms to pull. And it's very common for us to see footage of people on the campus board that will start on almost a 3/4 lock, lower their body to maybe a half lock or a quarter lock, and then pull. And we obviously want that full power available to us, even if we're not going to use it all. So straight arms are ideal. You'll see that I lower to about a quarter lock, or just under, maybe an 1/8 lock. My arms don't go fully straight, but this is on purpose, showing that my arms aren't fully straight, so I can get more power out of it. I'll pull, so we'll unfreeze the video, and as I pull, you see that I release probably at about a half lock, and I probably use a little bit too much power. I go above the rung, and as I catch it, you'll see that it sags a little bit, but then I'll pull into maybe just under a half lock, between a half, maybe a third lock. And you'll see that if we freeze the frame there, my feet are pointing either directions, my knees are pointing either directions. I'm very front on. My right shoulder's kind of collapsed a little bit, and I'll start to pull. My body sags a little bit, and as I pull, I release my left arm, still under a half lock, between a half
and a quarter, so a third lock. And I'm not strong enough to do this one arm pull up. So you'll see that my legs start to kick, my center of gravity, my bum starts to drop. And as my legs kick straight, so I've already hit my dead point, my body's sagging, I catch the rung. And I'm only able to do 1, 4, 5 because my center of gravity is dropping. I'll match it with a pinky drop. And then we can compare this to the better version. Again, we'll freeze it just at the beginning of when I start to pull. My arms are slightly straighter. My right arm there is pretty much as straight as it goes. And you'll see that I'll probably release at a similar time, maybe a little bit higher, and I catch the rung more accurately. And then I'll just keep it slow, and as we press down, you'll see that my left hip comes to the wall. I'm pressing down, I'm pressing down, I'm pressing down, and I release with my left leg straight. My right leg is still at a kind of a half bend, but I release it. My right arm is about 3/4 lock, so I'm pressing down. My center of gravity is still going up. My left leg is straight, so it's keeping the hip closer to the wall. And you'll see that my right leg starts to kick fully straight as I catch that rung. So I'm hitting my dead point as I catch the rung. I'll match and drop.
So, fortuitously, we've just met Braden. And he's nothing to do with rope. He's just a climber, a movement Englewood. And yeah, he was kind of listening over the shoulder about what we're talking about. So Braden's about like a 5'11" sport climber, kind of a 6A6B range in French terms. And then he's projecting kind of V6s in the gym. So he's not super experienced with campusing, he has done it. We're gonna put Braden on the large jug rungs. These are tension rungs. And we've basically asked Braden to do a 1-4-7. And what we're gonna do, very kindly of Braden, we're gonna kind of pick that technique apart. And it could relate completely to you. And we're gonna show you how to improve that technique. So, Braden, over to you. Garrett's gonna go back. And yeah, we're just gonna ask you to do a 1-4-7. Just give it all you can. Yeah, I'm actually gonna film on this phone as well. So, yeah, whenever you're ready, you can go for it. Come on, Braden, give it everything. Go, come on. Come on. Good job, dude. So we've given Braden the prompts. Essentially, we look back at the video and he's catching the first rung quite well. And then what Braden's doing is he's collapsing a little bit. He's using momentum well, like his lower body, but then he stops pulling at a less than a quarter lock. So he stops pressing and pulling at a quarter lock. So essentially the mat, his center of gravity stops rising. So he can only reach as far as his legs are kipping and twisting, which in this case was 1-4-5. He's slapping kind of 5.5. So the immediate goal for Braden now is a 1-4-6. And that's what we're kind of hoping for right now, is an immediate 2 minutes of coaching. And the prompt really is the fact that Braden's going to catch this fourth rung, press and twist, and it's going to be explosive. So the common mistake most people make when they're learning this is they'll do an offset pull-up like we did, and then they'll stop and try and reach, and as they reach, they sag. What we're trying to make you do is an explosive one. So you go 1-4, press, and as you're kind of pressing down, reach up. And I'm gonna push you through the first go. Cool? Yep. Okay, let's do it. So you're gonna go 1-4, and I'm gonna push you through, and I want you to press, 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 and when I say reach, go for it, okay? Make sense?
Almost slow motion, or just
I want you to go full power.
Just going for 6.
Yeah, full speed. Yeah, well, with me, you may even be able to go for 7.
All right.
Cool. You ready? Let's do it.
Starting at 1?
Yeah, 1. So 1-4, I'm gonna let you do. I'm just gonna push you through a little bit. So ready?
All right.
Go. And then you go press, twist, and go. Ready? Cool. So hop off. Obviously, that's me giving you some power.
Sure.
And you did stay 2 front on. When you're doing it on your own, which will be in a minute, yeah, you're gonna do that same speed. So I don't want you to stop and reach or pause here. I want you to be explosive. So as you're pulling and pressing, your center of gravity is gonna rise, and you're gonna stop pressing last minute and reach, and hopefully we'll still get a little bit of pull as you reach up.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yep.
I'm gonna let you catch your breath.
Sure.
And then we'll go for it. Good, turn. Yes, sick. Good, immediate gains. After that, now it's the perfect segue to start looking at that lower body, because the difference between a 1-4-6 and a 1-4-7 is typically what's happening with the lower body. We need to pull that hip closer to the wall, which we've just been looking at, but also we need to help raise the center of gravity. So that kip I was talking about, we're gonna kip our body weight help raise our center of gravity. So as I'm pressing, there's still this gap to close. And that's going to be the difference of what's happening in my lower body as I reach up to that higher rung. So we'll stick with this 147, and I'll show you the difference now of what's happening in my lower body. We kind of talked about many of the concepts in that slow-mo a few minutes ago, but this is going to be looking at lower body specifically now. So yeah, now we're going to look at that lower body. So what you'll see is as I campus, and I'll try and talk through it as I'm doing it, but as I throw my right hand up, my right hip is going to go closer to the wall. I'm trying to mirror the contour, the 15-degree overhang of a campus board. And as I catch it, I need to then press, pull my left hip in, and then I'll be kicking my legs, you'll see. So the key concept now is that we hit our dead point at the right time. A dead point is when our center of gravity, our mass, our body mass stops moving. And therefore, I've got a very finite reach. I can't go any higher unless I can generate the force from somewhere else. But if my center of gravity stops, what you'll see is that I'm going to be kicking, and that's the end point of my dead point. And I want to time the catch of the high rung exactly as I'm kicking. We often see when people are learning this and they're starting to get to grips with this concept is they'll reach their dead point too early. We actually saw it in Braden where he's kicking out before he reaches. What that means is you may be at a half lock, you've kicked, and then realistically as I'm reaching, my center of gravity is going to drop because I can't hold that position on a half lock on a one arm hold. But we're going to look at that now. So I'm going to jump on, we'll do 147, and I want you to really specifically look at what's happening in my lower body. So I'm going to be reaching up right hand first, I'll catch the rung, we'll talk about grips in a second, and then I'm going to be putting that left hip in. As I do, I'm going to be swinging my legs to help raise my center of gravity, and I'll be kicking and hitting my dead point theoretically as I hit that 7th rung. Let's do it. Got my phone on me. So 258 again. So you'll see that as I reach up, hips in, I need to flick those feet out, kick them, raise my center of gravity and hit that dead point as I hit that 8th rung, 258 here, so 147, and then I'll match. So we'll see that again in slow-mo.
As I come onto the board, I go to those straight arms and I'll pull down and catch this 4th rung fairly accurately. I want to catch it as close as possible to a straight arm. I flick my feet aggressively. You'll see that my left leg and my right leg are going up harmoniously. I release the pressing down the left hand and my right arm is at 3/4 lock and my center of gravity is still rising. I kick straight, my hip is close to the wall as I catch that higher rung. And I'll bring the hips back underneath me, match and drop.
We're going to look at the grip type a bit closer up in more detail. Here I'm in that half crimp, that 90-degree PIP or middle knuckle position, and it's really effective at pressing down, and we'll see that as I go up in campus compared to the drag grip. Now the importance is as I'm pressing down, my elbow is going to be coming up, and you can see that that changes the angle of this drag to pulling out from the hold rather than down through it in this grip. So it's going to do two things. One, it's going to allow my body to fall away from the wall, so I'm going to have less reach. Two, it's probably going to mean that I'll press down for less time, meaning that I'll release earlier and again have less reach. So we'll see the difference right now, really close up. I'm going to start in a 1 and 4, and I'm going to campus, and I'm going to start in a half crimp and see how close I can get my hip to the wall, and you'll see me pressing down through it, and then I'll do the same in a drag and you'll see the difference. So I'm on 1 and 4, and I'm going to press down, and I can get my hip quite close to that wall. Right at the end it may change slightly, but if I'm in a drag grip, do the same thing. It's going to be much less effective of pulling my hip closer to the wall. Really important that if we hit the rung, we try and get into that position. And it's definitely a skill-based and experience-based grip type. For a lot of people campusing to begin with to learn the technique, completely recommend doing it on jugs, just exploring power and technique. But as you get more experience, you can come onto the rungs, and if you start doing it in drag, that's fine, but as you start training your half crimp, start to try and actually use it, start to use it whilst campusing. We'll do that one more time from the back view, seeing what happens in drag and in half, and then we'll just focus on climbing campusing actual climbs. So this half crimp, I'm gonna just start from one of like 3.5, and I'll be in the half crimp, and you can see kind of how effective it is at pulling my hip closer to the wall. The last second it will probably open up to press down before I release. So I'll be going half crimp, half crimp, half crimp, open, press, release, because I'm going to try and maximize my reach. If I'm obviously in half crimp, my wrist needs to be kinked. The last second I can press. The difference being now I'm going to do it in a drag, and you'll see that I won't have as much purchase on the hold, so my hip will probably come away slightly further. So I'm in drag, and it will give me much less press. So it is really important to learn that skill of catching an edge, change it to a half crimp and pressing down. It's a hard skill to learn, but it's one that you can focus on if you've got more experience. This video has primarily been focused on the technique of campusing, hence why we've been on the campus board, but we're just going to quickly talk about the concept of campusing preset climbs over using the campus board. And there are benefits to both. The campus board is very much really good at learning the technique. It's linear, everything's the same, the grip type's the same. But in climbing, obviously, that isn't the case. Every hold's different, the orientation of the hold's different, the spacing is different, which is why it's really good to campus preset climbs. You get exposed to campusing and using different holds. The friction's not just straight pulling down, it could have kind of a different orientation on it, but also the angle of the wall changes. However, the concept remains the same. If the wall's steeper, it's even more important to help press and pull your hips in closer before you release. The concept still remains the same, and we're just going to have a look at that now. We're going to campus this yellow V2. The couple of things to look at immediately. One, we can campus it as it's set, and the holes are really close together, they're big jugs. Then we can explore missing out holds, elimination. That also helps us develop power. And then we can obviously look at different climbs, different angles. This one's quite similar in angle to the campus board, so it's quite good and a nice place to start. But we're still going to look at appropriate power, that first concept. I'm not going to throw and catch a hold and lock it off. I want to use minimum energy, using my body to help rotate and flick my body around. So start like this, straight arm catch, turn my hips, press down, turn my hips, press down. This is sloper, so I'll probably match it. Turn my hips, press down, turn my hips, press down. So you'll still see those legs firing to keep my hips close to the wall. I'm pressing down appropriately. I don't need to lock the whole way down because the holds are so close together. But now we'll probably explore what happens if I try and just do this rather than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 moves in 2 or 3 moves. So start the same. I'll probably miss out this first one. So more of a press down. Now here, I need to go to that one and then I kick my hips in. Even towards the end, you'll see my hips fall away from the wall a little bit more. The sloper only allows me to pull in so much. I can't really lock it in, but also the angle of the wall changes, the holes change. So it's really worthwhile campusing preset climbs once you get to grips with the technique of campusing. Right, thanks for watching. That concludes this video on the techniques of campusing. If you have liked it, please click like and subscribe for more content. We'll be back soon.